Welcome, Amanda. Thank you so much for coming. It was really delightful to talk to you beforehand. And on that note, just welcome and thanks for your time.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here. Like we were talking about, I've known of you through so many of my clients, and I've just been watching your incredible business from the sideline. So to be able to chat today on your podcast is such an honor.
Well, thanks. So let's launch right in there because I always kind of I feel like a little bit of a kid when people are like, oh, your business and you're such a great entrepreneur. And I'm always like, I kind of don't know what the hell I'm doing.
I love it.
I mean, so I think what's great is one of your kind of taglines or welcome is that this reluctant entrepreneur. There's so many people, and you reference some of them that, didn't intend, like if you said to me 20 some years ago, you're going to run a brand and have a business and have to, do selling and marketing, I would have been like, no way. I am like a clinician. I'm into science. This is the farthest thing that I can imagine. I'm sure I'm not alone. So how is it that people become reluctant entrepreneurs, and how do you identify like somebody that is actually an entrepreneur who hasn't yet kind of taken on the label?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love this so much because this idea of someone, what I like to say is like stumbling into entrepreneurship. And really, the people that I resonate with and end up at my virtual doorstep are the ones who are following a passion or a hobby. So like yourself, you learned a ton about the body and movement. I could ask you almost any question and you would have the answer. I mean, I've soaked up so much knowledge from you, yet you don't probably feel, like you said, like you have enough information because you probably didn't go to business school, right, to run this business. And so there's this interesting situation that we get ourselves in because we know a lot about the passion or the hobby, but as soon as we put on that entrepreneurship hat, it's like all the self-doubt comes with it. And it's like, I don't know if I can do this. And so that's who I love working with versus the person who is like, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Like they just know that that's what they want to do. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a different mindset.
It is a different mindset. And I think in a way, like working with the people you work with, like myself, has got to be really delightful because we are really following this passion. It is like, it's in my DNA, it's in my cells. It's not something I like clock out, clock in. I'm living it. And, in in my particular circumstance, I just saw a real gap, a void of tangible, important information for yoga teachers who were teaching movement but didn't know much about the body, and realized like they don't have to go to PT school. Like I can teach them how to do it. And then I also, came up with a particular methodology, realizing there were some gaps again in having, habits that people develop over time and trying to shift them. For yourself, you were in marketing. Like how did you decide that you wanted to do marketing? Like, how did you, as a young person, even know what that was? Like, how would you define marketing, and how did you know you wanted to do it?
Oh, that's so good. I really appreciate how you were talking about how you just found the gaps, and you didn't say these words, but I'm listening and hearing, and the little bit that I know of your story is you took one step at a time, right?
Yes.
One step at a time, figured it out. Maybe not fully confident, but you kept going. And I would say I have a very similar story. So I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up, right? I knew I was going to go to college. It was kind of in the path for me. And I'm very grateful for that, by the way. I had parents who supported me in that. And so it was in the cards for me. So I went to college and I thought, oh, shoot, I have to declare a major, right? Like we're flashed with this, and you're 18 years old trying to decide what you're going to do for the rest of your life. I had no clue. And the first thing I declared was journalism, thinking, okay, I don't even know what made me pick it. Like I was just like, okay. And the funny story is that I was in one of the first classes that was actually journalism, not like gen ed. And I massively failed at a assignment. And I realized I don't think journalism is for me, because it was like a wake-up call. And what happened was the professor had emailed everyone at 2 a.m. And he had told us many times, like, this was not the first day he said it, he told us many times, the news doesn't happen when everyone's awake. Like, you have to check your email, you have to do these things. And sure enough, he emails everyone at 2 a.m. and gave an assignment. Like, this happened, write this article, right? Well, I show up to class like a normal day. Everyone else is turning in their assignment. I have nothing. There was probably a few other people in this spot. And I realized, I don't think I want a job that I have to be awake at 2 o'clock in the morning.
No, I value my sleep a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I changed my major at that point. And I was
Did you thank him? Did you say
yes.
thank you? That you saved me.
Yes.
You saved me a lot of time here. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And it's funny reflecting on that story right now is I'm going to tell you how I ended up in marketing, but really I feel like I can relate a lot of things to marketing. And that is one of them of, he did such a great job of weeding me out. He attracted the right people who were like thriving in that. And he repelled the person who was like, absolutely not. I do not want to be in that position. And so we do the same, or I hope we do the same in our marketing. We want to do that push-pull of the attracting and the repelling. So anyways, I do thank him for that because I did not want to be a journalist after that. And so I ended up really focusing in communications, which was kind of an all-encompassing degree of marketing, advertising, public relations, kind of a mix of all of it, which was pretty cool. And ended up, getting the job that I could. So I moved from Florida to Oklahoma and got a job in marketing and really started to fall in love with it. Like I didn't know if I would actually do the job that I went to school for. It turns out I did. I really love it. And the part that I really love about it is that I, for some reason, found it along the way that marketing does not have to be crappy. Marketing is neutral. Certainly people can do it in a very sleazy way. We seem to remember those, but I think it is so fun. Like, I can walk down a street and be like, that is a really cool marketing tagline. That is a really cool thing. Our mutual connection, Megan, I remember she was on a trip one time and she sent me a picture of a store, like it was a brick and mortar, and I think it was just donuts. Or maybe it was some sort of bakery, but it doesn't matter what it was. The store, like the bakery, only had one thing that they sold. And she took a picture and she said, this is niching down. Like I'm seeing this as they niche down to they have this one thing. Like you could get a cup of coffee and a pastry or something like that. And I thought, how fun that I get to kind of ride alongside these people who I get to interact with, and they go for it and see amazing marketing in the world.
Yes. Okay. So for people who are less familiar, I know there's going to be a lot who listen, but this is all just good reinforcement. First of all, marketing, would you say it's storytelling? It's like capturing an idea, a story, and then presenting it as well as possible. So it's compelling in some way. And then that's my kind of idea, but I want to hear what you think of marketing. And then when you say niche down, I know what that means. Can you explain what that means for people and why it's so important to do that?
Right. So marketing, I do think that great marketing is storytelling. When I think about what marketing is, I think it is sharing information. Sometimes that's a story. Sometimes it's an invitation to take you up on the next step. So I think marketing and sales can get really confusing for a lot of people, including myself. Like, is this marketing? Is this sales? Because it's all kind of intertwined. But I think of marketing as sharing information. You and I both have a podcast. That is great marketing, because we're sharing information for free for people that need it and want it and are searching for it. And then maybe mid-roll in the episode, you say, hey, by the way, lit training is open and you can sign up and you have an invitation to take that next step and go deeper. In my opinion, all of that is marketing, and it's sharing. And And oftentimes it does include a lot of storytelling for sure.
And I think in the sharing, you, to whatever degree, are establishing some kind of authority, I think is the best way to say it, but that some kind of trust that, you see something, whether it's marketing for good shoes or marketing for good movement, and you see it enough and it resonates in some way. And like you said, that invites you to at least go down the next step of either learning more or making some kind of purchase that would actually, get you involved more. But in terms of the audience, or that product, because you said niche down in terms of this was the one thing they sold, but I'm also thinking of the niche. So can you kind of explain those differences?
Yeah. So niche, and I feel like every time I talk about this, we have to address the fact that some people say niche and some people say niche. Yeah. Doesn't matter. Whatever way you want to say niche it is fine. Or niche. Yeah. I feel like niche sounds fancier, so I feel like that's too. What I picked a long time ago, and so that's why I went with it. But go with whatever.
I think in terms of the dictionary, because I grew up in a very intellectual family that debated about every possible pronunciation, including this is not my strength. Most people say this is not my forte. But the actual first pronunciation is fort. People say forte because it does sound kind of fancier, and forte is meaning loud, actually, in other languages. But it is an accepted pronunciation now. But there's a lot of debates because my mom is super intellectual, and so I do know niche is I think the first pronunciation. So
there we go. I trust your mom.
Yes.
So I'm in. We're both saying it right. Is what I'm going to think about this.
Yeah.
So niching down is really identifying a small section of an audience, of a group of people. And so, for example, if someone wanted to work with moms, that is a niche. Mm-hmm. If someone wanted to work with people that have back pain, that is a niche. And it all of a sudden makes things so much clearer. You and I were talking about how things can get really confusing when you try and tell something and you're like, how do I get this across in an easy, succinct way? Niching actually helps that significantly, because if someone, if your audience is yoga teachers, a lot of them, and so I've worked with a lot of yoga teachers, and people will say, I'm a yoga teacher. And I would say, well, what differentiates you? Mm-hmm. So what is the difference between you and this other yoga teacher? We are the unique factor as a service provider. But imagine the difference when you can look at someone's website and say, oh, she specializes in scoliosis. Immediately, the person knows, kind of like me in the journalism school, right? This is for me, this isn't for me. And that's exactly what you want. So that is really about niching down, which I don't know how much you talk to your students about this. I obviously talk to them a lot about it. And I get pushback every time I talk about niching down. So I always usually bring that up of, if you're starting to feel the sweat and the push on this, just know that niching, you can take it one offering at a time. Maybe you have one class series that focuses on lower back pain, and that's the niche for that one thing. And it makes it clearer to do that. And also, you can change over time. You're not stuck in a box forever to talk about back pain for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
You can change over time.
I think it's almost like a box of chocolates. You can only pick, a few. And you're like, but look at all the other things I'm missing out. And so I think a lot of people, I know I came into thinking, I just want to help people move better. But I was mostly, but I did in my reluctant entrepreneurship, I was actually given kind of almost a place, which the placeholder was, people are coming to you because they've been dissatisfied with classical yoga practices. They don't like it, how it feels on their body. It feels potentially injurious or something. They're curious about understanding the body, not just being told how to move in a variety of ways. And then I started really becoming a teacher's teacher. A lot of yoga teachers would come to my classes, want to know more. How do I teach this? So I did find that, and I have expanded from that, which to your point is a lot easier. But I didn't do it as purposefully as you're recommending, and that would have been nice. But I think it just kind of happened organically for me in that way. But to this day, I still have that feeling like, oh, I just want everybody to experience lit. And I feel that way, but I know that's really not, it's not going to be for everybody. And that's
Right.
great. And I think that's probably what people will feel is they want to throw out a big net because they just want to teach everybody. But I can tell you from experience, like being really clear on what you offer is not only going to, like you said, make it easier for the person to enter or exit, but it's also going to make it much easier to articulate.
Yes. And I really love how you just described that it happened organically. I really encourage everyone to simply allow that to happen. I talk about niching down a lot and getting specific, and I can sense that pushback. And then I can also sense that people want to figure it out right now. Like as soon as it clicks and they're like, oh, I do need to do that. Then it's like, I want to know it now. I want to figure it out right now. And oftentimes it takes time. While you might know your niche, the words take some finesse. And that takes a lot of time. And I really love how much you just talked about how you said people came to me because they were looking for this. You know that because you started listening for it. And that told you what your niche was. And it also helped you with the marketing messaging because words are hard. Words are
Oh
really
my gosh.
hard.
Whenever, like everybody out there, if you ever tried to make that elevator speech, I still don't know if I have it. I don't.
It's brutal.
It's brutal. Like, can I explain what I'm offering and what I've done in a minute or two? I can't, or 30 seconds. I mean, it's just so hard, but it's so
brutal.
important.
Yeah. I had someone ask me, I'm in this group and I'm learning a lot. I think this is one thing that as we continue as entrepreneurs in our business, we constantly need to be in a room with people who know more than us and surround ourselves with people. And so I am going through this program, and the leader of the program said, I want you to tell me the problem you solve in one word.
Wow.
Right.
My word would be education, but
yeah,
because people, if they don't know, so they're, whether it's like getting injured or not having enough energy, all that. But yeah, it's very hard.
Isn't it hard? It took quite a bit for me to really wrap my mind around that, even though I definitely love the idea of niching down and getting specialized and knowing the problem that you solve. Trying to articulate it in one word is really interesting. That was an interesting exercise to go down.
What did you end up saying?
So it took me a while, and I will say this, so I'll tell you the word, but it's also not necessarily the word I would lead with in marketing. Because the problem that we often solve is the problem that the person doesn't necessarily know. They might be experiencing a pain point in another way. So, for example, me working with entrepreneurs, it's lack of progress. Most people that come to me are like, I want to do this, and they're not taking action. But the problem that I actually help them solve is self-doubt. Because the self-doubt is causing the lack of progress.
Yes, interesting. And I think what you said about being around some other people who have experience, I can't recommend that enough. Because when I had the studio, I was just winging it. I mean, whatever. And then finally I thought, oh, there was a small business women's group that I was invited to. If I had not been invited to that, I don't know if I would have just, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess I am a woman's business owner or whatever. I went there and I was just talking to some women, and this one woman had this she had shops everywhere in town, was very successful, and she was just asking what I did. And I was explaining it, and I'd given her the card that I had for the studio. And she said, why doesn't it say on here that you're a physical therapist? Now, looking back now, people that know me, it's like, that's like that's like a lead thing. But I wasn't even speaking to something that I was qualified as because it was a yoga studio. And I just was sat there kind of stunned. And it was that one woman like just opened up like, oh, yeah, well, of course I should say that. I mean, I'm bringing it into everything I talk about already. So anyway, I think what she said was, if I had gone to a yoga studio and knew that you were a PT, or I would have gone to a yoga studio knowing you're a PT because I've tried yoga and it injured my back. And so, again, it's like there's a problem. I'm solving it just by my knowledge, and I wasn't utilizing. So I think a message probably that you tell people too is we all have our own gifts, our background, education, whatever it might be that we might not be speaking to in a way that is actually amplifying the message. Would you say that you've seen that?
Oh gosh, in my own life, in every client I've ever had, because it's so hard to do it for ourselves, because oftentimes that gift that we have doesn't feel like a gift to us. It feels like it's a natural thing that we just do. And so we try and name it all these different things. Like we say, this is what I do, and we list the features, right? You get 3 classes with this class pass or whatever. And it's like, okay, we need to think about what the benefit is. But oftentimes we can't see that for ourselves. So we have to have it reflected in conversation. So just like you did with that one lady, you're telling her about you, and then you hand the card, and she had the moment of, these 2 things don't add up. You just told me one thing, but it's not on the card, but you had probably never thought that.
Never thought of it. And now I look back and I think, what a dodo.
Right.
What? But it was one of those moments. And that's what happens too. If we are willing to put ourselves out there and then listen to the people who do have just that knowledge base, because they're again going to come right in and ask the questions sometimes that we need for clarification.
Absolutely. And, I think there's so many of us that want to help someone 1 or 5 steps behind us because we struggled. So all we want to do, whether it's in movement of our bodies or entrepreneurship or whatever, like we're so willing to help. We need to remember that people ahead of us want to do that for us. They want to help us as well. And so I think so often we can get in our own way when it comes to that. Like you probably didn't go to a lot of events until that first time for whatever reason. And once you see the benefit, it's like reaching out to people like yourself. Like now I get to be in a room with you, right? Where you get to share some amazing nuggets of wisdom with me. And it's simply a conversation of like, hey, can you introduce me, or can I be in a room with you? Which can feel scary sometimes.
Yeah, but I think if we all remember, like we're all kind of stumbling along a little bit, and and we just are, but it's kind of like the tumbleweed. We're like acquiring something along the way. Something is sticking, and then we're bringing it with us, and it's there to again be. It feels good to help others and to learn from others, and I think that's, in a way, coming from a non-business background, that has been an advantage, because I just go in and I don't mind if I don't even think about like, is this a stupid question? And people will be like, oh, that's a great question. And I'm sure it's actually something pretty simple, but other people might've been afraid to ask. And I'm just not afraid to ask, because I'm like very clear that this is not something that I learned. This was not my expertise. Let's talk about, I wrote down some things that you had said that I thought were so powerful, like done is better than perfect. This is, I think, wonderful for people who tend to be like maybe not as task-oriented or kind of procrastinators, and also for the like overachievers, right?
Yes.
So it hits everybody. How did you come up, and I love it, it's like in pink too. How did you come up with that? And then you said collaboration over competition, which is what we've been talking about.
Right.
And the other thing I wrote down is that you were appreciated. So can you kind of talk about what these pillars are about and how you came up with them?
Yeah, these are part of my core values when I think about my business. And if we went back to 2017 version of Amanda who was starting her business, so nervous about all the things. I didn't have these words. I think they were all part of me. I don't think it's brand new things, but I didn't have the words. And I say that because, again, I think we can get really wrapped up into the words, and it stops us from making forward progress, which is where done is better than perfect came from. I kept saying, just take action. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I was saying this to myself. This is someone who I am definitely in the I want things to be perfect and look great and sound awesome all the time. And so I'm on that side of the spectrum. But what I've seen time and time again in my business and as well as other people's is it's never going to be perfect. Ever. There is no such thing as perfect. So done is so much better because done means you're taking a step forward, just like you've talked about the entire time of you took one step. You didn't really know what you were doing. You're winging it. But look at how much you've accomplished. And if you hadn't just taken a step, you wouldn't have all the things you have today. So I live and breathe by done is better than perfect. And every student who's listened to me, which we have so many collaborative students, they're all laughing right now because they've heard it so many times that one of them, I will not call this person out, but said, we should have a drinking game every time Amanda says that.
It's kind of like in PT when we say it depends.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you were saying, go ahead with the other ones. So
collaboration over competition, my gosh, every day, all day, twice on Sunday, as much as I could say it, so many people can get tripped up with the idea of competition where, and there could be people out there that will view you as competition and look at it in that way. But there's a lot more who are let's lift each other up.
I agree.
And let's do this together. And so find those people because my gosh, entrepreneurship is hard, but it is so much easier when you have other people. And so collaborations are just super duper fun.
And then the final one you said was just, you have a couple of them, but that one was you said, I wrote it, where did it go? Oh, you are appreciated.
Yes, you are appreciated. So this was a really interesting one for me. So as I was going down the process of writing my book, which was a whole thing, you've created a lot of content and a lot of curriculum. So I'm sure it's very, very similar. And it's a lot of research, a lot of writing. And one of the things I knew I wanted to talk about was core values for entrepreneurship. You are the leader of this business, no matter if it's only you or you hire contractors, you hire full-time employees, it doesn't matter. You are the leader. And so understanding our core values is so important. But dang it, I did not like the idea of taking a list of core values and picking from them. I just had this aversion to it. It had never worked for me. I also, all I could remember was my corporate days of the teamwork poster on the wall. And I was I will not do that. So all this to say, I stumbled across something online and it was from, I hope I say this right. It's in the book correctly. I know. I think it's Coactive Teaching Institute or Coactive Institute or something along those lines. They have an exercise for understanding your values. And one of the questions was to really reflect on suppressed values. And so I asked myself, what pisses me off? Right? And so I just sat outside and thought about it for a little bit. And one of the things that really gets under my skin, not everyone is going to feel this way, but I really value being appreciated, and I value appreciating others. Now, I make a clear distinction about this for myself. It's not recognition, it's appreciation. So a lot of people, I think, compare those two or kind of combine those two. And I recognize that I value being appreciated, so therefore it's going to be in my business. And so when I thought about it from a business aspect, the value is you are appreciated. We appreciate you, that idea. Because if I can show appreciation to the people who interview me on their podcast, like yourself, the people who trust me to help them in their business, the ripple effect of that is so big in this world. And so that core value of appreciation is huge for me. And I always want anyone who's interacting with me to feel appreciated and take that ripple effect into the world.
I love that so much. I think that's a beautiful core value too, right? It comes into play daily. It can be every interaction that is seemingly quotidian, going to the grocery store and somebody bagging your groceries, whatever it is. It's just, I love it when I bag my own groceries and the person's like, oh, thank you for doing that. It's like, I'm not doing it for their acknowledgement. I'm doing it to be helpful. But they're seeing that and not just like brushing it aside. Again, I don't need it, but there's an energy to it. And like you said, that there's a ripple effect. Well, I love that so much. So tell us more about your book. Okay. So, because writing a book, we know is not a small feat. What's in there? Who is it for? And where can everybody get it?
Yes, I am super excited to share this with the world. And I think when I went down this path of writing a book, I signed up for a writing program, which was very smart for someone like me who really needs structure and appreciates structure. And writing a book is very unstructured for a bit, And so I needed a program to kind of follow and keep me on task. And so I signed up for this program very much assuming I would write a book about marketing. Like I went into it thinking, okay, I'm going to write about marketing. And I was met with so many different moments in this writing process, one of which was my husband and I moved his dad in for a period of time to be his caregiver. And I had this moment, which I think you're just going to really enjoy this question. I was sitting on the couch and he was in the recliner and I'm writing and I thought, he is the most important right now. Like family is the most important. And so my business was still running. I'm very fortunate that I had a business that continued to run where I could take a back seat, but I was still present, but less hours, But I thought, if we are working in this situation for a long time, things are going to have to change with my business. And he is more important. And so I thought, if the business burned down, what would I rebuild? And I had this moment and I wrote the book that I would want to write, not the one I thought I should write. And so I wrote this book and this, like, one of the first chapters is, which became the title of the book, is Why Not You? Because I started writing and I thought, you, my dear friend on the other side of this, like you are encouraging others. You have this passion. Why can't you do this? Like, I believe in you. Why not you? Because I say this to people all the time. And so I had this whole thing about like, oh my gosh, I just want people who I ended up calling the accidental entrepreneur, of those people who are stumbling into entrepreneurship. I wanted to give them something, a guidebook to follow. And so the book is that guidebook. And so sure, I'll talk about marketing until the day I die probably. But if you don't get these first few things figured out, you'll feel like you're stumbling for longer. So the book is called Why Not You? An Accidental Entrepreneur's Guide to Success. And it'll be published in June of 2023. I'm excited. It'll be where books are sold, Amazon Bookshop.
This is amazing. Everybody should get this, because I know when I started to become aware, like I really got to start learning this stuff, I went out and got some of the old standards, which are great. Like the small biz, I can't remember them now, but it's like the kind of the Bible for small businesses. And what it shows you is like everybody, like it gives the example of the baker who loves baking and then all of a sudden they decide to open up a store. It basically almost tries to talk you out of doing stuff. Do you know which book I'm talking about?
I think I do.
It's a standard one.
Yeah.
And it's basically learned from other people's mistakes. And that was valuable, but it wasn't as much like, like kind of a pro you can do this and here are the tools to do it.
Right.
And I think, I can't wait to read it. I'm always still learning because, the thing is, we're never there, just like in life. And if it means, even if I had to, I'm always willing. And I think that's also a good gift, I think, as an entrepreneur, is being willing to pivot, to change, to to slim down, to grow, whatever it is just not being attached to an idea of what we should be doing or shouldn't be doing.
Right. I always like to say that we have got to stop shooting ourselves.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
Dang it, will it take us on the wrong path? We're going to get too far down that dang path and we're going to be unhappy. And again, that's like so much of what ended up being in this book. I talk about defining success. That's a really big piece of it because I didn't do that. I love setting goals, and I will stand by setting 90-day goals forever, probably. But I was choosing to believe that these goals were my success. And so the goalpost of success kept moving, and I could never get there. And gosh, what a terrible situation that is. And so this whole idea of just understanding what you want and what success is for you, and writing this book just opened up so much because what I call it is your you promise. And you make this promise, you declare these things, and it guides you no matter what pivots come your way. If you have a yoga business and it is thriving, and then 5 years from now, you're like, I actually think I want to open up a flower shop because that serves me more. Like, you still got your guidebook. Good to go.
I love it. It's like it's like life lessons almost.
Right.
It sounds like. So this will be available in June, which is probably when this is coming out. So that will be exciting. And then we'll have to do a follow-up because I'm sure people will have questions. Yes. Because you're lovely and I could talk to you all day. And I know I'm going to pick your brain once we're off air about some things. And I just appreciate your time, your energy. Your appreciation is it's like a cloak you're wearing. I can just feel that everyone in your aura is benefiting from you because of just your energy and generosity. So thank you so much.
Gosh, thank you. I'll take all of those words and hold them very near and dear to my heart for sure. Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. And everyone, make sure you check out Amanda in the show notes, all of her information, her book. And as always, I'm pulling for you.